IHF Coach Developer Program, Hockey Club Operations, Athlete Development, Coach and Practice Session Assessment. Learning objectives for the week are to know the core competencies and skills of an IHF coach developer, have a big picture of the needs of your own country's coach education system, be able to apply the LEARNS principles, be able to use GRIP as a review tool, be aware of quality club structure principles for effective player and coach development, be aware of the principles of long-term player development, be aware of the core competencies of a quality coach, and be part of a team and have a supportive network. What are you trying to accomplish as a coach developer? What are the most essential things for you? What kind of environment is needed for a coach and player development? Star Club quality factors as established by the Finnish Olympic Committee in cooperation with the different sports federation. An example on how an association or federation can control the quality of individual clubs in terms of what the clubs can offer to the people involved in the sport. The benefits of being part of this program and getting qualified are the following. First, clubs can strengthen their brand and image. Second, clubs can increase quality of coaching and other club functions. Third, clubs can get educational support for different needs. Fourth, clubs can apply for financial support to further develop club operations. Fifth, the club can get an access to a web-based platform where different educational information is available. And finally, being part of the Star Club system helps clubs to network with other clubs and other sports. In order for clubs to cater to the different needs and interests of the players, clubs should offer different participation possibilities, for example, hobby participation pathways, as well as competitive high-performance pathways. Through offering different participation possibilities, clubs provide players with the possibility to enhance their skills and to enter the performance pathway at a later stage. Ice hockey is not an early specialization sport, and clubs should therefore encourage young athletes to do as many sports as possible. This way, the athletes can develop a strong and versatile athletic base to specialize in one sport at a later stage in their life. Ice hockey is a team sport, and a team is composed of individuals. Clubs should encourage their coaches to emphasize focusing on the individual in their coaching. Through focusing on the individual players and their needs during the development process, coaches are ultimately improving team performance. The current slide gives a short insight on how coaches can teach players to think for themselves and to increase their self-awareness. When players know themselves and their needs better, they will become more motivated to continue their development. Another important premise for individual player development is that coaches need to get to know their players better. This is another important aspect to increase the motivation of players for their own development. Goal setting is another tool for coaches to help players to become motivated in their own development, as well as introducing methods to monitor progress. Traditionally, hockey coaches have approached or started the development process from the level 3 factors. On this slide, tactical, technical, mental and physical factors. However, in today's world, coaching could or maybe even should start from the level 1 factors, on this slide determined as the attitude, self-awareness and self-confidence, responsibility, emotional drive and motivation of the players. Start with motivational and mental factors first. Developing the proper type of mindset towards training and playing is the key for establishing a healthy and long-lasting development process. Carol Dweck has published several articles and books on the fixed and growth mindsets and how to change one's own mindset towards a growth mindset, where challenges are viewed as opportunities to learn and develop. Clubs should establish player and coach development paths. The long-term development process should begin by making a proper learning needs analysis for coaches and players. The needs analysis for the players and the coaches should include as many game-like and competitive development needs as possible. The needs analysis should be added to the short and long-term plans for both the players and the coaches. Development plans for the team as well as the players are based on the coaching philosophy and leadership style of the coach as well as the club. Profiling of the team as well as the individual players is based on a set of predetermined skills and characteristics. The final development plans for the team as well as the players are the base for the daily practice plans, the short-term plans, as well as the annual plans. The Finnish Ice Hockey Association has developed a competence-based coach license system where qualities such as ice hockey know-how, athlete-centered approach to player development, planning and organizational skills are assessed. The coaches are assessed by their mentors, peer coaches, parents, players, and the assessment also includes a self-assessment by the coach. Coaches should have the holistic development of players in their focus when planning practices. Practices should include time where individuals can develop themselves as athletes as well as players. This slide provides you with an example of technical skills that should be taught during an on-ice practice session for F1 juniors. And the technical skills objectives for F1 juniors continue. This slide provides you with an example of teaching offensive skills that should be taught during an on-ice practice session for F1 juniors. This slide, on the other hand, provides you with examples of teaching defensive skills that should be taught during an on-ice practice session for F1 juniors. And this slide provides you with an example of drill systematics that should be taught during on-ice practice sessions for F1 juniors. This final slide provides you with an example of a practice schedule for F1 juniors for the whole season. Here we have an example of how schools and clubs can work in cooperation to provide good teaching base for developing athletes and players. The Finnish Olympic Committee recommends to emphasize the following qualities and skills during athlete development of secondary sport academies as follows. A progression of fundamental movement skills from the 7th to the 9th grade, physical qualities such as speed, endurance and strength, psychological skills and life skills are progressively developed. The sport-specific training is based on each sports federation coaching strategy. This slide shows an example of how life skills can be included into the different areas of athlete and player development during training camps. Here we have an example of how playing skills can be broken down into different areas and how the skill development can progress through the season. Here indicated as periods 1 to 5. Here we have an overview on how the training season as well as the development path of a player needs to be divided into different training and learning periods, from the initial sampling of sport activities, here the preliminary preparation, to gaining expertise in one selected sport after approximately 12 years of training, here the sport perfection. This slide provides an example of how a season can be divided into different learning topics for players of a younger age group. Here we have an example of a typical week for U18 and U20 aged players. The most important thing is to provide enough constructive training time for practice. The objectives and tasks of a head of coaches in a club is to develop coaches to think of the coaching process in terms of big picture thinking. Here we have an example of a good structure for a practice session, which includes physical, playing skills, as well as mental components and 2 off-ice training units. Here we have a club structure example with all the teams. This example of a club structure shows the cooperation between the national team coaches who are helping and overlooking the player and coach development within the club together with the regional coaches. Communication between the club officials and the regional coaches, as well as between the club officials and the national team coaches, are the key for development. All big clubs are doing cooperation with all the small clubs in the area. Player development and coach education in all the clubs. Support and cooperation between the clubs through the skilled coaches with the support of the regional coaches. Clubs who do not have their own skills coach are supported through a mentor coach as well as the regional coaches. In the following, we will show a few examples for coach and practice assessment. The coach evaluation sheet is an example of what qualities can be assessed during a coach evaluation or assessment. This slide and the following 2 slides provide an example of what and how to assess a practice. Example of assessing coaches and their practice session, and also here example of assessing coaches and their practice session.